One black man versus the police. The truth they didn't want uncovered. Framed for a cop's murder, mechanic Darius Cole is on the run, hunted by a corrupt police force. With only investigator Nia Reynolds on his side, he must uncover the truth Detective Lawson died for. Every step is a deadly gamble, every ally a potential traitor. As bullets fly and time runs out, Darius must risk everything, because the truth is bigger than he ever clung to Darius Cole's hands as he wiped them on an old rag. His shop had been quiet all evening, nothing but the low murmur of the radio and the distant hum of traffic filling the space. The latest repair job, a busted sedan with a faulty alternator, sat in the middle of the garage, waiting for its final test. Darius checked the time. Almost midnight. He reached his phone buzzed, expecting a late-night inquiry from a customer. Instead, he froze. His own face stared back at him from the news broadcast. Breaking: Detective Henry Lawson was shot and killed in a downtown parking lot. An anonymous tip has identified local mechanic Darius Cole as the prime suspect. Authorities consider him armed and dangerous. Darius blinked, his stomach twisted at his shop, working on cars. He hadn't stepped foot outside. The thought of being anywhere near a murder scene was absurd. He grabbed the remote and turned up the volume. The screen cut to grainy surveillance footage of a figure in dark clothing running through a dimly lit lot. The caption underneath read, "Darius Cole, wanted for murder." No way, anchor's voice droned on, stepping back, but the words barely registered. Then, something else hit him. The shop had cameras. His alibi was on tape. He bolted toward his office, logging into the security system. Nothing. The footage from tonight was missing. A gap between 6:30 p.m. and midnight, right when the murder happened. His pulse hammered in his ears. Someone had erased it. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Their company had time to react before an explosion ripped through the shop. The shockwave sent him crashing into the workbench. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Flames roared to life, consuming shelves of tools and supplies. Smoke billowed, thick and suffocating. Coughing, he forced himself up. The fire spread fast, feeding on grease and oil. Heat seared his skin as he stumbled toward and ran into the alley, lungs burning from the smoke. A flood of blue and red lights reflected off the brick walls. Sirens. His name blared from a megaphone. "Darius Cole, put your hands where we can see them." Panic surged through him. If they caught him here, there'd be no talking his way out. His only chance was to run. He turned, sprinting toward the chain-link fence at the alley's end. Commands filled the air, orders to stop, to surrender, but stopping wasn't an option. He gritted his teeth, leaped onto the fence, and hoisted himself up. Metal dug into his palms as he swung over. He landed hard on the other side, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain jolted through his shoulder, but he pushed forward, weaving through the maze of backseats. The city felt like it had turned against his name, cursed by people who had once brought their cars to him for repairs. Someone had framed him, and whoever it was wanted him either behind bars or dead. Darius had no choice. He had to find out who had set him up, and he had to do it fast. The police circled his neighborhood before the smoke had even cleared from his shop, banging on doors, flashing his photo, and demanding answers. His mother's house was their first stop. They didn't knock. They stormed in, flipping through drawers, checking under furniture, pressing her with questions she had no answers for. Friends, neighbors, old customers, anyone who had ever shaken his hand or shared a meal with him, found themselves under the officer's scrutiny. No one had answers, but the hunt didn't slow. It only grew louder. Darius kept moving, keeping to alleys, ducking behind dumpsters, and listening to passing sirens. He needed help, but there weren't many people he could trust. Then, a name came to him, Nia Reynolds. Nia had built a reputation for taking powerful enemies, and if anyone could see through the cracks in this setup, it was her. He found a payphone outside a rundown gas station, hands shaking from exhaustion as he dialed the number he had memorized years ago. It rang once, twice. Then a voice cut through. "Who is this?" "Nia, it's Darius." A pause. Tell me you didn't kill that cop. I didn't. Another pause. Where are you?
Calling me.
I
You
can't.
need help.
Don't be stupid. Where are you? He swallowed his pride and gave her the cross streets. Half an hour later, a beat-up sedan rolled to a stop in front of an abandoned warehouse. Darius hesitated before stepping out of the shadows. Nia sat behind the wheel, her sharp eyes scanning him before unlocking the door. Get in. The moment he
You
shut the
better
door,
not be lying
she
to
pulled
me,
away from
she
the curb.
warned.
Because if you are, I swear. I didn't do this, he cut in. But someone really wants people to think I did. She drove in silence, listening. When he told her about the missing footage, her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. That's not an accident. Yeah, I figured. The problem is, the more you run, the guiltier you look. What choice do I have? She pulled into a small underground parking garage and turned off the engine. We need proof. Tell me something I don't know. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked the screen, frowning. Then, she handed it to him. A message from an unknown number. This is bigger than one cop's murder. Someone wants Darius gone. Miles Davenport. Who's Miles Davenport? Darius asked. Left who still digs for the truth. He stared at the screen, dread creeping in. What does he mean, bigger? Before either of them could guess, a bullet shattered the windshield, missing Nia by inches. Down, she shouted, shoving Darius below the dashboard as another round tore through the passenger side. This wasn't an arrest. This was an execution. They weren't trying to take him in. Gunfire stopped as they wanted it started, but the damage was done. Nia slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as she backed out of the garage at full speed. Darius stayed low, bracing himself as she swerved onto the street. A black SUV was already in pursuit. They're not letting this go, Nia said, gripping the wheel. We need to disappear. Darius looked at the bullet-riddled dashboard. Didn't answer immediately. Any ideas? Then, she pressed down on the gas. We find out who Lawson was investigating. If we can prove what he uncovered, we might have a chance. Darius nodded. Time was running out. Nia tightened her grip on the wheel as she swerved through side streets, leaving the SUV struggling to keep up. We need a lead now. Darius checked his phone, scanning through messages. A drive. Lawson must have left something behind. We find it, we get answers, Nia said. But we have to move fast. Darius's fingers tightened around his phone as an idea formed. Lawson's old auto garage. He used to meet informants there. If he left something behind, it's there. Nia made a sharp turn. Then that's where we're going. The garage was abandoned, its rusted metal door covered, revealing dust-covered workbenches and the faint scent of old gasoline. He searched through drawers and toolboxes, hoping to find anything Lawson had hidden. Then he spotted it, an old burner phone wedged behind a stack of tires. He powered it on, but a lock screen blocked access. Before they could think of their next move, a sudden noise outside made them just as Nia's phone vibrated. She checked the screen, her face darkening. They know we're here. Reggie had tipped them off. Betrayal burned into Darius's chest, but there was no time to be angry. Sirens filled the night as police vehicles closed in. Parking garage, Nia said. It's our only chance. They ran through the alley, ducking into the entrance of an old structure. Floodlights flared to life. Helicopters hovered above. Officers in riot gear poured in from every level. Darius's breath came fast. They've got us. Not yet, Nia said. She pulled a fire alarm, setting off chaos in the building. Smoke began to fill the area as emergency sprinklers burst to life. In the confusion, Darius sprinted toward an open stairwell, pushing himself up level after level. A sharp sting tore through his shoulder. Erupted. He fell against a column, pain blurring his vision. Nia appeared beside him, dragging him into the stairwell. You're not dying tonight, she snapped. They pushed forward, slipping through a side exit where Nia's backup plan waited, a stolen bike tucked behind a dumpster. She helped him on, gripping the handles as she took off into the night. Darius gritted his teeth through the pain until they reached an old warehouse near the river. Inside, a woman in scrubs, Dr. Elena Ruiz, waited. This better be worth the risk, she muttered, pressing gauze to Darius's wound. Nia held up the burner phone. It is. With Elena's help, they bypassed the encryption. The files inside made Nia's hands shake. Voice recordings. Conversations between Lawson and Captain Victor Langley, head of the manhunt. Lawson had uncovered proof of corruption, cops working for criminals, covering up murders, eliminating threats. And Langley had him silenced. Darius exhaled, a new kind of determination settling in. Now we take him down. Nia loaded the recordings onto a flash drive. We need to get this out, but every news station has already decided you're guilty. Then we go bigger. Darius rubbed his Langley had organized a high-profile charity gala that night. Politicians, media executives, and city officials would be there. It was their best shot. If they could play the recordings in front of a live audience, the truth would be undeniable. We don't have credentials, Nia pointed out. We don't have a way in. I know someone who can get us in. They met a former contact of Lawson's, a forger who provided them with stolen IDs. An hour later, Darius adjusted his borrowed tuxedo in the mirror. Nia tugged at her dress uncomfortably. I hate this plan. Me too, Darius muttered. Let's go. Inside the grand ballroom, Langley stood at the podium, delivering a speech about justice and security. Cameras broadcasted his words live across the staying near the back. Nia positioned herself at the sound booth, connecting the flash drive to the live feed. Langley's voice boomed over the speakers. We will not stop until the city is safe from criminals like Darius Cole. Darius took a deep breath, then pressed the button on his earpiece. Now, the audio cut Langley off mid-sentence. A familiar voice played over the speakers. Make it look like a random shooting, and make sure Cole takes the fall. Gasp rippled through the audience. Langley froze at the podium, eyes scanning the room. The recording continued, detailing the orders to erase evidence, plant fake leads, and silence anyone who got too close. The room erupted into chaos. Langley motioned to his men. Kill him now. Darius bolted toward the exit, but agents swarmed, shattering the chandelier above him. He ducked, heart hammering. From across the room, Langley grabbed Nia, pressing a gun to her temple. You think you're clever? He spat. This ends now. The world seemed to slow. Darius raised his hands, taking a careful step forward. His voice was calm, and he needed to find a way out of this. Frozen before it was his hands raised, watching Langley's smirk grow wider. You kill me, Langley said, his grip tightening on Nia. You become the monster they already think you are. Before Darius could move, a shot rang out. Langley's body jerked, his grip on Nia loosening before he collapsed. His second in command stood behind him, gun raised. I'm done taking the officer's voice was rough. The ballroom doors burst open as officers stormed in. Hands grabbed Darius, slamming him to the ground. Boots pressed into his back as fists landed hard against his ribs. His vision blurred, the weight of bodies crushing him. Enough. The command cut through the chaos. Governor Walter Hughes strode into the room, his face tight with rage. The officers hesitated let him go before stepping back. Darius coughed, pushing himself onto his hands and knees. The governor looked around the room, his gaze lingering on Langley's motionless body. Then, he turned to the cameras still broadcasting live. This city deserves better than corruption at the highest level. By morning, protests filled the streets. The truth about Langley and his crimes spread like wildfire. The police force thrown into upheaval. Darius's name was cleared, but the damage had been done. Months later, he stepped outside the prison gates, the sky open above him. Nia waited near a car, arms crossed. Took you long enough. Darius rolled his shoulders. Could have been worse. She studied him. What now? He looked past her, past the city skyline. I make sure this never happens again. She nodded. Then let's get to work.